Okay, so welcome back. We've talked about the route map now, where we've outlined the map for the cranial nerves, the anatomic distribution for 3, 5, 7 and 9. And remember, this is the anatomic divisions of these nerves, and I've only drawn the anatomic divisions which are relevant for the carriage of autonomic fibers throughout this region of the head and neck. And what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to fill in by showing you functional divisions now, functionally where parasympathetic travels through this anatomic divisions which I've already got on the board. Okay, so functional parasympathetic. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with cranial nerve number 3. Okay, cranial nerve number 3. So the cranial nerve number 3. Now the thing I like to do here, and this is just using something that Sean shared with me a little bit earlier, is imagine you're an electrician. Imagine you're an electrician and you charge this wire. Okay, so flip the switch here. This wire is now charged. Okay, so this is my parasympathetic coming down this wire. When it gets to here, this is a synapse. It tries to zap this little ball here. Okay, this is the receiving end, it's the postganglionic fiber, and that is on the trigeminal. Okay, so we're going to put a hat around that to show that's the ganglion. This is your ciliary ganglion, just behind the eye, and basically what's going to happen is that's going to zap across there, and it's going to carry the charge onwards. And this is your short ciliary nerve. Short ciliary nerve. Okay. Let's move on to, because that's the only one really for that, so that's number 1. Remember the 4 parasympathetic ganglia of the head and neck, that's number 1. Let's move on to number 2. So number 2 is going to be a ganglion which is located here in the pterygopalatine fossa. I'm going to draw a hat round here, and I'll show you how we get there. So this is coming from cranial nerve number 7. After it gets divided, it's going to send a branch, which is the greater petrosal nerve. Up it goes through the pterygoid canal, and then comes down into the pterygopalatine fossa. In the pterygopalatine fossa, it's going to meet and find the pterygopalatine ganglion. Pterygopalatine ganglion. Imagine again, this is charged. So it's going to supercharge this whole thing, and that node there is now going to be charged, and it's going to transmit out parasympathetic fibers to all areas which are mucus secreting. Okay? This ganglion is sometimes known as the ganglia of hay fever. Okay, that's its nickname sometimes, the ganglia of hay fever, because when this ganglion is stimulated by your parasympathetic nervous system, you have all these hay fever-like symptoms. Okay, all your glands start to produce all this mucousy fluid, and you start to have a runny nose, because it's all areas to do with your nose. So your runny nose, all your mucous membranes of your nose go all running. In your mouth, watery, alveolar nerve, middle alveolar, posterior alveolar nerve. Also, you climb up. Yeah. Note no parasympathetics going this way, because that is somatic, sensory. Okay, zygomaticofacial and temporal are to do with sensation around the skin of the face. So we'll bypass those. I'll keep going, because parasympathetics is interested in things which are under autonomic control. Okay, so almost like automatic. And here we go up to the lacrimal gland. So you get runny eyes. So watery eyes, runny nose. The gland of the ganglion of hay fever, pterygopalatine, ganglion number 2. Let's move over now to the next branch of the facial nerve, which is going to go through the ear, called the tympany, through petrotympanic fissure, and it's going to come down to, oh, look what we have here. Another ganglion, okay? So again, the analogy, electricity comes along, comes up to here, and it zaps this node, and this node is delivering fibers, post-ganglionic sympathetic, parasympathetic fibers, down to this way, submandibular gland, and this way, sublingual gland. Okay? So they're going to go to produce secretions from those two glands. So this is for your salivation. Okay, so that's 7 all done for its parasympathetic functional divisions here, now we're going to move on to our good friend, which is the glossopharyngeal, number 9. So that's going to come down. It's going to go out jugular vein, back in through a hole which has no name, back into the tympanic cavity, sends off tympanic nerve, and then has lesser petrosal climb up the roof and then continue forwards onto foramen ovale and then drop down from inside the skull out through foramen ovale to meet a branch of V3, which is the auricular temporal nerve at this point here. And to use the analogy again, electricity, switch, and that's going to jump across the synapse and then go down to innervate the postganglionic fibers heading towards the parotid gland, and that's responsible for your salivation and your secretions from the parotid gland. So that is the 4th ganglia of the head and neck, and this is your otic ganglion, O-T-I-C, otic ganglion, so it's near the ear and parotid, otic ganglion. This one here is your submandibular ganglion. This one here is your pterygopalatine ganglion, and lastly this one here is your ciliary ganglion. So just to recap again, there are 4 parasympathetic ganglia of the head and neck. Number 1, ciliary ganglion. Number 2, pterygopalatine ganglion. Number 3 is the otic ganglion, and number 4 is the submandibular.